Yeah, in the pod, we're joined by one of the biggest mad dogs. We love it. She's the best in the world. Why was that so intact there? All right, we go. Oh, wait, we're recording? All right. All right, introduction. Today on the pod, we're joined by one of the most dynamic and thoughtful voices in specialty coffee, Anita Jets Langlands. Woo! With over 2 decades of experience across every link in the coffee chain, barista, trainer, roaster, technician, sales, and operations, Jets has shaped coffee culture in New Zealand, the UK, and Australia. She also spent some time in Germany, but she was just pulling Guinnesses off the tap there, so... now, she brings a depth of experience to her role as the head of marketing for Marzocco Home, and Mod Bar. That feels like a very stressful and anxiety-inducing role. Here, she's helping evolve one of the world's most iconic coffee brands for a new generation. In this episode, we're diving into Marzocco's new Future of Coffee report, a deep look at the current and future landscapes of specialty coffee in Australia, from shifting consumer behaviours to the rise of automation, sustainability, and new expectations for baristas, cafes, and roasters. The report covers it all, and who better to have on the pod with us than you, Jets? Welcome. I'm Rowan Cook. I make coffee on the internet.
And I'm Ben Bicknell. I judge people who make coffee, but only in competitions. It's okay.
And together we are
It's Just Coffee!
The coffee podcast for people who know it's never just coffee. Don't go anywhere. We're going to have a quick word from one of our sponsors, Apax Lab. Elevate your coffee experience with Apax Lab mineral concentrates. Apax Lab's precision-engineered formulas, including tonic, jam, and lilac, are designed to enhance the coffee's natural flavors. Not going to change it, it's just going to enhance it. It's going to bring out the vibrant acidity, the rich sweetness, or if you use lilac, it might bring out those delicate floral notes that you've been looking for. Trusted by world-class cafes and even barista champions, Apax Lab helps you unlock your coffee's full potential. Discover more at apaxlab.com. Wait, where was that again, Sonam?
The internet.
Oh, okay. Thought I was going to say the website. Thanks. Today's episode is brought to you by our amazing sponsors at Eco Barista. The reason I sound like this is because they got massages at our stand at Mice, and so I'm getting a massage while recording this message for you. They're the best sponsor of the pod that we could have had. They have the best eco products. This probably sounds really pornographic, but it's not. I'm just getting a massage. They have the best eco-friendly coffee products. They got coffee bags that you can design yourself. They got cups. They got iced coffee cups. They got everything you need. So make sure to support them because they support us. Head to ecobarista.com.au and get 15% off your first purchase when you sign up. Oh, mama, that's good. Yeah, welcome to the show.
Friends. Long-time friends.
We are
a privilege.
We are long-time friends. I'm going to get into that in a second. But first question, what's your go-to coffee? You came in and just said, whatever's going. But what's your go-to on an average morning?
Such a good question. It actually can be anything. It depends on what I'm feeling like. I have a mini at home, a linear mini. Very lucky. So it's generally espresso because I have a small child. It's the fastest express beverage that I could get into my hand. But yeah, anything from a long black to a oat flat white.
Yeah, I'm there with you. I'm kind of like, what is it? A jack of all trades, master of none. Just drink what's ever on offer.
Even if it's cold, I'm pretty cool.
Now, we first met when I was a little baby barista coming up. I was working at a cafe that you were at Allpress at the time, and we were using Allpress. And you were my first barista trainer. You were the first person to teach me how to make coffee.
Oh, so it's your fault.
I know. I'm so sorry, world.
I remember all the different techniques that we were going into. We were like, pour your milk right into the middle of the crema. Keep that crema layer going as the froth level increases.
That's good training if you still remember, babes.
Don't pour it down the side of the glass so you're breaking up the crema and not integrating it all properly. It's all lodged in my brain forever.
The first script was yours.
I know.
Oh my God.
Stop. It's my fault. I do apologize.
Thank you.
It's an honor. It's an honor, Rowan.
And so, like Rowan, I guess, has started off as a barista with you showing him the ropes. A lot of us have started off in the barista role, and you did as well. that transition from barista to any other role in the coffee industry can sometimes be kind of challenging. How did you make that first jump out of a barista role?
So you spoke to me living in Germany. I escaped New Zealand when I'd finished university. I was studying commerce of all things. I don't know how I rolled up into that, but ended up finishing uni and decided to live in Germany for a year or so and just traveling around. We're in a van, no Google Maps. It was all paper maps and working in an Irish pub. And prior to that, I'd been working in a cafe using Coffee Supreme and got my way back to New Zealand somehow because I'd run out of all money, was in a bit of debt, and contacted the team at Coffee Supreme, actually Olivia, who still works there. She's head of HR globally now, I believe, for them.
Hasn't been at any Coldplay concerts recently?
No, I'd hope not, please. Fantastic woman. And had reached out to her and said, you know any cafes that are hiring? I've got a bit of debt. He said, actually, we're hiring for a trainer and customer care person. I was like, I could do that. Teach people how to make coffee. I care a little bit about it. And the rest is history, I guess. Yeah.
So right place, right time.
Yeah. And talking to, making connections regardless of where you are in the industry, just having a chat and feeling confident to just reach out. You never know what opportunities.
So you wore a lot of hats in the coffee industry. How did you make that jump from kind of being more a part of the coffee side into marketing and specifically at La Marzocco?
The way that I kind of found my way through from barista, trainer, all the way through was probably asking questions in the same way, like, why does that make that noise? Why does that taste like that? What causes that? And that then led me to learning how to do preventative maintenance or replacing steam ones or asking questions about sales, like why did that person pay that much for coffee and why did we choose them as a customer and how did you go about that decision, and kind of led into that. And I guess getting to that point, it then got to the point of why are people choosing to drink our coffee over other people's coffee? Once I'd got through sales repping, and it's like, why did they choose me or another roaster? And start to move into that. And it was the psychology of it all, I think. And that's what I fell in love with training in the first place. How to understand how people learn or what motivates them to make decisions. And that really inspired me to head into marketing. And I feel like there's so much to learn there.
I think that like some of the best people in hospitality have got a similar kind of bone or focus on the audience, right? Is that if you're really good at hospitality, you're reading the audience, you're reading your customer, you're able to respond to what might they need, where are they at in their mood. And it's kind of the same with marketing in a lot of ways, isn't it? You're really just kind of always thinking about your audience and how can you connect with them? How can you communicate effectively with them?
Meeting them where they are. I think, like, rather than assuming anything is probably my biggest point with that.
Being curious about them.
Yeah. Asking questions.
No, I've always found marketing in a space of something like coffee really interesting because it's such a nation-specific market. Just someone with a generic marketing background, does that work when it's such a specific topic? So I guess like the question is it better taking someone like you that's worked in the industry, knows coffee inside and out, and bringing you into a marketing role to kind of take and learn those more marketing skills and take your coffee knowledge? Or is it better to hire a marketing person with not really much of a background in coffee and try to teach them about the world of coffee?
Yeah, well, I didn't study marketing. So I think I've had a few things revealed to me where they're like, yeah, that's basic marketing principles. And I'm like, oh, cool. Good to know. Figured that one out the hard way. But we have hired, it's quite interesting at La Marzocco Australia. I think when I started, it was predominantly coffee people. And more, we're probably about 50-50 now, people that come from coffee and people that don't, people that follow the brand or people from other brands or businesses that find our industry interesting. And I think it's really beneficial to have both in the team. I think, especially if you have the luxury to afford to have both, I think that's really great. I have a perspective of what I guess coffee kids or coffee people know. I think I used to be a coffee kid. I'm far out of that realm now. So my insights are probably out of date, but the people that have come from other brands that are working with us, namely just recently, we've had two fantastic people join our team from Specialized Cycles and Adidas. Quite different businesses at very different levels, and bringing insights into like structure, organization, the way that they communicate in team and externally has supported us in, I guess, streamlining that coffee knowledge into something that's more palatable for people that are outside of that industry. And again, meeting people where they are on their journey. Sometimes you would start using dialogue or acronyms that people don't understand.
Yeah, making it more accessible. I think sometimes having that outside perspective on our little coffee bubble and the rabbit hole we go down is definitely useful.
A lot of us just live in that rabbit hole, and it's good to poke your head out sometimes and realize what actually is going on elsewhere.
I think I learned a lot of that from doing a lot of the content online where you're getting feedback about what people do or do not get and trying to turn it into layman's and make it palatable and accessible for everyone.
It's super interesting though, because I know I've kind of seen it be successful and failure on both sides, where if you bring in a professional from outside, especially in a communication role like marketing, and they don't understand the exact kind of culture and the subculture of specialty coffee in particular, and what consumers and industry are really kind of connected with from our hearts and minds, not just a practical, like, you know, here's a product. It's like what excites them about it.
I would say that's the brand's fault for not onboarding or having enough of an understanding or a cohesive tone of voice themselves, and not being able to communicate that at that level. I think if you don't arm someone with the tools, if they're a professional, they should be able to sort of mold what they think into that. But if they're not armed with that, they're obviously going to make assumptions and could go off piste quite quickly.
Yeah. So if you were to kind of like, if anyone was starting to look at bringing on board a professional marketer or someone with those skills, can be really beneficial. Like you said, that you can bring in a lot of that structure and technique, but make sure that you have like a strong cultural onboarding for them.
100%.
So they understand your brand and the audience.
Yeah. Our lovely new team onboarded at Mice. They've been in the business like 3 weeks, and then it was Mice. Yeah. They've since said it was intense, but also one of the best onboarding experiences they've had, because they literally just got dipped in the bucket and pulled out, but feel like they know a lot more than they could have known. A big bucket of espresso, of course.
Great. So you've kind of worked at Marzocco since 2014, is that correct?
Yeah, 11 years, just gone in July.
You've worn like a lot of different marketing kind of related hats there, but 2025 you were made head of marketing at Marzocco.
Yeah,
congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah.
It's pretty huge. Look, Marzocco, it's kind of obviously a brand that's recognized globally. You know, it's on the benches of so many specialty coffee cafes and is really part of the culture. What is it like to like step into a role for a brand that's got so much legacy and history? You know, what, like Rowan said in the intro, was it kind of stressful to take on the responsibility of that?
Yeah, I guess so. I think I'm very lucky because I've worked in coffee for over 20 years and worked on La Marzocco's and learnt about it from the consumer side, from a wholesale specialty side of things. I understood how people perceived our brand in that respect. I think the learning journey I've been on is definitely the home, sort of speaking to home consumers. I feel lucky. Like I feel very, very lucky. I when I was working in London for All Press, when I went over there to help them establish the UK branch, I met a couple of the key stakeholders in the business, Guido, Lorenzo, Chris, in Italy. They would come over to London quite a lot. And so I got very close with them, and it helped me see from their perspective what was most important in their growth or their development of the business and what they loved most about the brand. And I think I've held on to that and then put an Australian lens on that. We're just very lucky. It's funny, people ask you, talk about marketing or talk about La Marzocco, and I'm like, oh, you're just going to be a lot more specific. Those disciplines or those stories are so rich and so deep. It's more like, what piece of our business would you like to know about? And I think that's the piece that's hard for onboarding, or, you know, like understanding La Marzocco. There's just so many incredible stories that if someone's like, I never knew you guys did that, I'm like, oh yeah, that's a huge part of our DNA, but we just haven't even delved into it. We're very lucky. I just feel honored to be able to tell the stories, to be honest.
Yeah, it must be difficult as well, because obviously La Marzocco has such a consistent tone of voice in that. But when you're in the Australian market, that's obviously going to be different from the Italian or the US. I mean, does that work smoothly, or is it like difficult sometimes trying to have those conversations on that global level of, no, it needs to be different here for the Australian market?
Yeah, well, we're very lucky actually. And it's something other people that have come from other brands come here and they're like, wow, like you're really allowed to tailor that to what your market wants. And the freedom that we're given there is we are there to serve our market. And that's why we have an office here. We're here to support and grow and sustain and help foster that local industry and that is how we tailor our marketing for that. So there is like a brand guidelines, tone of voice kind of thing, but they're like, make that yours. Make that what Australians want to see and hear. There's crossovers. Like there's a lot of conversations. I'm constantly in chats with the US, with the UK, with Germany. We share things often. So I feel very lucky to have peers around the world that are really special marketers, and I can lean on and ask questions like, have you seen this before? What are you doing? How can we do this together? So yeah.
I'm going to throw you under the bus here. I'm going to put your marketing and sales to the test. Why should I buy a $10,000 Marzocco home setup as opposed to like a $600 all-in-one espresso machine grinder combo?
Wow, how about I sell it to you like I've sold it to my entire family who all own Marzocco home machines.
Nicely done.
And aren't coffee nerds. And my mother very much was like, well, I've got a machine that works. The grinder's inside it. You just push the button and it does it. For me, it's the longevity. We always want to, and I think the older I get, the more that I invest in pieces that are going to last. And I think what I love about our product over pieces that are more affordable, more entry level, and they have their place. It's when you can afford what you can afford that's going to take you on your journey. Our purchase cycle is like 1 to 5 years from when people find out about us. It's an aspirational item. But to me, that's something that will last your entire life if you look after it. Service technicians can come to your home and use the same parts they use to service commercial coffee machines. You don't have to send it out to some backblock warehouse to get fixed. You don't know when those parts are coming. And to me, it's manufactured like industrially. There's heavy pieces, componentry. It's not going to break. It's not made of plastic. To me, plastic, heat, and the moisture are like plastic's worst enemy. Think about kids' toys that sit outside in the sun.
Also, the ones that are getting more and more electronics in them as well.
Yeah, 100%.
I always see like these LCD screens and machines and you're like, well, that seems dangerous.
And I think where we've worked with that is we've kept quite a traditional espresso machine in the look and feel of our equipment, but you have all of that data on your phone via the app.
But what I love about it is I kind of am getting a bit annoyed with like all the digital displays and all this. I'm like, how long is that going to last? How long is that? Whereas I feel like my Marzocco is designed where it's like, yes, it can connect to my phone and I can control all those things. But if we were in an apocalypse and all I had was a generator and all the lines were down and everything, I could still plug in my Marzocco in 50 years and it would still pump out banging coffees.
As long as you service it and put good water in it, it's yours for life. And I think that's where that investment goes. So,
will there be Marzocco service people if there's an apocalypse? Will they?
I reckon they'd survive.
They'll survive, yeah, because
I believe so.
They're handy.
Good coffee.
They're hardly built as well. All of those.
Coffee's good
people.
for your health, I'll have you know.
Marzocco has had some investment from DeLonghi over the years. And, obviously it's had a long duration. You've been working at Marzocco in marketing for a long time. How has kind of the marketing approach shifted over that time? You've had that kind of old world Italian. I don't even know if that's really the right frame for what we're talking about, Marzocco, to like a premium global consumer brand. Have you kind of had to change your marketing strategies or any of the conversation there of how you approach Marzocco?
You know what? I don't think so. And I think it's because we have a really passionate fan base of people that support us. And I think people at its core is what both of our brands speak to. Our drive has always been to connect with people where they are on their journey. And I think I've mentioned that already. Like if you are purchasing, you're still using a cafetiere at home, that's great. That's how you enjoy your coffee and that's how traditionally your family's done that. That's fine. And for us, it's very much like, where are you going? What do you want to learn and how can we support that growth? And whether you can afford to buy a machine now or you're even in a place in your business or you're aspirational, we want to just help foster your passion for the industry and take you on that journey. And I think DeLonghi fits in there as well. And they've really let us be our own brand. Like they invested in us to support what we were doing. They don't want to change what we're doing. They just want to connect with people where they can and help them on their coffee journey as well. So it's very complimentary. Yeah. Very lucky, cool. I believe.
Yeah, Rowan and I were talking about this before the pod a little bit about that value or the way that different companies, come together in terms of either acquisition or investment or kind of merging, which isn't necessarily what's happened here, but it's the appreciation for the brand story, the equity that's there rather than just coming in and trying to swamp over or saying, I've always had this idea about where we should take Marzocco and then it just goes completely off track. I think that's kind of a good message for like roasters buying other roasters. If you're buying into a cafe that's successful, like tread carefully about changing that brand.
Yeah.
I also love your comment about like, if you want to use your mocha pot or stovetop, then use it. The amount of people, the comments, just like you show any piece of like, here's my home espresso machine. It's like, well, I just use a mocha pot. It's like, cool, use that.
That's
I'm
great.
not telling you need to buy this. I can't afford that machine. Yep, then it's not for you.
Exactly. And I think we look to those people that when you do get that job or you do get that like all those that old rich aunt dies in Scotland that you never knew and you weren't attached to, but you got all that cash. Sick, you know what you want to spend it on. That's great. Like, but yeah, I'm also a real fan of a Chemex.
Oh, I wish I had an old rich aunt.
Yeah, right. I don't think it happens anymore.
Yeah, definitely.
That you're not emotionally attached to.
I feel like they've got an export market there to tap into, just old rich aunts.
If there is one of them that I don't know about, they're definitely not
Reach
leaving
out.
me any money. Yeah, reach out. If you want to be on the pod, I'll bring you in. We can reconnect. We can make it all happen live.
And have I got a machine for you?
Crowdsourcing old rich aunts.
Now, just in terms of marketing, I want to know what trend in coffee marketing annoys you or you have a bit of a pet peeve about?
My pet peeve is, I think, speaking back to what we've been talking about, is not being agile. Really just coming, saying, this is what we do, this is how we do it, and if you're not on board, you're not for us. And I think it's very exclusive. It's really arrogant, and it's just so not a way to bring people in and make them feel welcome. And I think that's, the definition of hospitality is to host, look after people, bring people on that journey with you. And I think it's just like, make sure that you are speaking your truth, know your story, tell your story, but don't hit on people that are where they are and they're coming on their journey and they're just reaching out either genuinely for interest or if they are trying to make a dig, find out where that dig's coming from, because toxic people are generally just very hurt people.
Yeah.
Just give them a hug.
Yeah.
The amount of times in comments I write to someone just, I love you and I hope you're doing okay.
Do you need a hug?
And then they like reply back. They're like, yeah, sorry, I read this back in the morning. Probably a little uncalled for.
Yeah. Right?
That's okay, man. We all have those days.
Totally.
Okay.
I think so, yeah. And in short, agility.
Less, and I think like you were saying, getting outside of that bubble, right?
Totally.
It's like we can get so fixated on like a particular craft. I mean, it happens at all parts of the supply chain where we're like, oh, we're trying to get really good at our extractions and our ratios and we're TDSing everything. And then you turn around to a customer and you're like, TDS. And they're like, I just want a flat white. Thanks. Sorry. Yeah. And you kind of lose them in that bubble.
Yeah. Rather than taking them along. They might be really interested. Maybe not now, maybe in 3 years' time. Be that person they'll go to because you were warm and welcoming where they were.
Yeah. Is there anything that you want to see more of in coffee marketing? I mean, I guess it's the flip side of what you're just talking about. Be agile, be responsive to your customers.
Be supportive. I think like someone comes in, just like we were saying, and wants a decaf, half decaf, vanilla with cinnamon. Sick, make it for them. You don't have to drink it.
Yeah.
You don't have to judge anyone for what they want. Just take people with you and help them feel welcome, because, yeah, I just feel being exclusive, being rigid is not going to win any awards, win any hearts, and it's just going to, make people feel unwelcome, and that's the opposite of what we should be doing.
I completely agree. All right, so shifting back into our marketing skill set perspective, you mentioned that you hadn't had any formal training in marketing, but you've learned a crap load along the way, I'm sure. Yeah, that was the term that you used, I think. If there's anyone out there, I know that there are a lot of people out there who need to do some marketing or are interested in improving their marketing. Are there any particular techniques or tools or even just ways of thinking about marketing? You've kind of mentioned this idea about being agile and being focused on your customer. But are there any other even technical skill sets that you found that have helped you in your role or you think might be useful for people to go and research, do a bit of Googling on?
Yeah, I think, again, knowing your customer and knowing who you're speaking to, I think there's an element of I have to update my website, I have to make an Instagram post, I have to X, Y, Z, without any understanding of the why. And I think that's something more and more you'll see your feed just filled with content because people need to put content out every day. But I don't think that need is actually backed up by necessity for the business. And so like, what are your actual goals for your business? What are you trying to achieve? And then lining those up with what your audience wants to see or hear from you and trying to make that messaging connect. I think there's a disconnect between that. And so understanding your audience, but also understanding your message or your growth or your business goals is super key. And just simplifying I think people overcomplicate things. Just make things a little easier on yourself. I just see people freaking out trying to achieve this checklist that I think potentially might have been written for them 5 years ago when they had someone talk to them about marketing, but marketing evolves daily. My team trying to do courses in marketing, and we're like, it'd be better just to potentially listen to a podcast, watch a video someone's made in their home because it's moving so rapidly.
God, I studied advertising and media at university, and like the teachers that we had maybe worked in the industry 30 years ago. I'm like, this is so irrelevant for like what we're looking at, what we're talking about today. I also like your point going back to this need to like feel like you have to have a checklist of like tick off this, post every day, post these things. And this is where you see like smaller little marketing arms that'll work for cafes or roasteries and that kind of thing. And they're just churning out so much content that is completely irrelevant with no goal, without any messaging for what the brand needs to do. As a brand, you need to have your guidelines of like, here's our point of differences and what we're trying to create and achieve. And then you need to communicate that in creative ways or whatever way to get the message out there. But there's no point in posting a reel or a picture a day on your Instagram if it's not benefiting anyone. It's not going to do anything. It's not going to convert any sales.
Absolutely.
So I guess that what we're saying here is if people are listening to this and going, what should we do? Is first step is really get clear on what your business goals are and the purpose and what you're trying to communicate, and then reflect that onto as well like a customer obsession, really understanding the customer. Are there any ways that you found that have been useful in kind of gaining that insight into your customer?
Talking to them.
Oh,
interesting. Communicating.
It's wild. There is a study, a branch of marketing or like people consumer research is ethnography. I don't know if you guys have heard of that before. Basically speaking to customers about their experience with your brand and how they interact with your brand, from finding out about it, considering ordering it, actually ordering it, and then their experience using it. And it's a really great process to basically be sort of a fly on the wall with consumer experience with your product. And you can literally do that by your team delivering the coffees and just listening to what people are saying. Or you can just chat to them. But they will tell you more in a short moment of conversation than anything you could research online or, what's happening in the area. I think like just have a chat. You'll be far ahead of what the census is going to tell you or anything like that.
So now we want to talk about Marzocco's Future of Coffee report. Why did you guys make this report and what is it? We've
initially made the report, I think, to support the industry. It's in a huge state of change. And we found that it was actually getting very frustrating. We were hearing from roasters, that they're in a really hard time. Green coffee's skyrocketing. Everything costs more. Wages, coffee machines, food products like milk, everything. Prices were going up and people weren't willing to pay more. And then the media were not helping. They were going, soon, computers are going to be as big as city blocks. Coffees are going to cost the same as a rotisserie chicken. It was like, is that helpful to support people that are their businesses in front of you that you go into every day? How can we give you a better narrative? What are other stories that you can tell about coffee that are really great and really exciting and empowering and are going to grow this industry and create really incredible career paths for people overseas and in Australia? And I think just trying to switch that narrative and trying to stop scare tactics. But unfortunately, the media do really like some clickbait.
Yep.
But we were just trying to give them a little bit of, once you've got that clickbait, once they've got in there, what are some key messages you can hit that can really resonate with people and be like, oh, actually, they don't want to charge me as much as a chicken, but really, I should probably pay a couple of extra bucks. That's a pretty fair point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's been 6 months of this $12 coffee.
I know.
How does it work from a media side? Are they just like putting out an article? They see that it gets a lot of engagement, so 2 weeks later they just post the same thing again. Like, I can't understand how it's just 6 months of this same story, which is founded in absolutely like nothing.
There's no actual basis for it either. Like, someone's said it or someone's just fabricated it and it's become this law that they're all sticking to.
The green coffee price must have gone up, and then they've gone, oh, if that's a percentage that's gone up, then that must be the cost of a cup of coffee. And it's like, no, that's not how it works.
Yeah, they were just kind of multiplying out the final cup of coffee based on that raw product
But
increase.
what intern did that? Let's find them.
It was some 16-year-old who just like did some terrible maths, and now it's like,
well, and for the listeners who are here from outside of Australia, the context here is obviously that the Australian media has been reporting for quite a while now about this idea of like coffee jumping to $12 a cup, right? And this is off the basis, as we've kind of talked about, of like, $4.50 historically. So a massive increase, and they've been reporting on that. And while, it's frustrating because it's not really based in anything, a lot of the people that I've talked to have actually found it beneficial because they are needing to raise
up
prices.
to $7 now feels a lot more approachable.
Exactly.
Yeah, finally.
Consumers are like, whoa, we heard it was going up to 12 and you've only gone up to 7. Thank you for saving us from the 12. But it is true that we need to increase prices.
But for those people overseas as well, like a few of our team are traveling at the moment because it's bitterly cold in Australia. It does get cold here, everybody. But, an iced long black in New York, $9 American dollars. That's 18 Australian dollars. Paris, a latte, €9. Again, $17, $18. Like we are
Denmark,
charging,
Sweden.
right? We are charging $5.50 for a oat milk latte, generally with a double shot. Like it is unheard of pricing. You could not get that anywhere else in the world, and it's necessary.
Yeah, it definitely is. So
I was just, while we're here, I'll just touch on this. So as we talk about it, what was it? Where were we sitting pre-pandemic in Australia? We were sitting around $4 for a cup of coffee, I believe.
Forever.
Yeah. And then that moved up post-pandemic to like $5.50. Do we all agree it's like $7 for this year should roughly be about where a cup of coffee is?
Agree.
Depending on quality and that. But if we're looking at specialty coffee, $7 feels like a good baseline for like standard.
A milky.
Yeah, for a milky, for a latte
Minimum.
or flat white. My question though is that's where it should be. Do you think though if we get up to $7 that is going to cut the amount of people who are going to go to a cafe coffees to go?
Look, I think potentially by 1 or 2 cups a week for sure. Like, I'm a 3-cup minimum a day gal, but I'm lucky to work in the coffee industry. So I'm often around coffee machines or I have one at home, and I also think though, and it's something when I first moved to Australia from New Zealand, we didn't have Italian migrants in New Zealand, not in any great wave. And when I first moved here, we had specialty coffee that was brought to us from the US. When I first moved here, that cafe culture of sitting outside and having that very European dining experience and coffee being a part of that was really unique to me, but also very Australian. I don't think people will give that up. Potentially they will give up having 2 or 3 a day, but they will definitely still go to the cafe for that experience because it is so inherently built into our blood as Australians that you go to the cafe, you meet your friends. You also just want to go on your own, work, read the newspaper. Do they still exist?
Maybe.
Yes, they definitely do. I'm all about the weekend
I
print.
about that. But that's me. I mean, I'm drinking kind of coffee at the office or at home all during the week. And on the weekends, I'll be like, no, I can go out to a cafe. But I think that the home espresso market or home coffee market is the future for specialty coffee where people can kind of afford it. Because if you're going out and spending at the moment $5 a coffee or up to $7 a coffee, you can buy a kilo of coffee for $60 to take home, really high quality. And you're making about 100 espressos from that. So if you were to buy 100 espressos out, you're looking between $500 to $600 versus a $60 bag of coffee. So I think making it at home is where you can have high quality in a more accessible way.
I do agree. I think
Fight
that...
me, Ben. You don't agree.
You're omitting a few costs.
No,
Labour, milk, dishwashing.
I agree, but I think
but if you go go ahead.
No, you go.
I was more and more on that side.
All of the other costs, all of the things. I agree that if people can get a good bag of beans, take it home and make a good quality cup of coffee, that's obviously a great thing. It's good for people to explore that. But that just means the baristas and the cafe world has to step up. Like if a home barista can, making a couple of coffees a day can do as good a quality as a professional barista, a cafe that's focusing on this, dialing coffee in, knows that coffee inside out, then that experience and the cup quality needs to lift at the cafe. you know?
I think you're omitting the opportunity here for cafes and roasters as well, because they buy those beans from someone. Mm-hmm. And pre-pandemic, speaking to roasters or cafes about their retail strategy, some of them were into it. Some didn't really have an understanding. And we were probably a little bit further ahead because we had launched Marzocco Home like 10 years ago, but we were still very much learning, and it's really ramped up since COVID. But you are the voice of truth to that person buying coffee. And so, yes, they have to level up their experience at the cafe, but what's to say they're not making the money out of that retail experience and encouraging them to come in and teach them about coffee, having classes for them, educating them, being like, oh, Johnny, did you see that we got in that new single origin? I know last week you really tried this. So rather than being like, I know that he drinks a soy latte and he's coming in and I'm already making it when he sits down, I can be having that conversation and leveling up his education. And yes, but I think a lot of baristas already have that education, but they don't feel the need to share that with their consumer. And I think sharing that wider and having them understand that they are more sommelier level experience.
Yes.
They actually already have that, but they're not.
I'm telling them my secret. That's what I've been doing for the last 3 years that no one else seems to be doing. But you're right. The report talks about roasteries becoming almost like the cellar door, right?
100%.
And it just makes so much sense because the retail is going to be, you're just selling a bag. Someone walks in and
so much easier.
Straight out there. But yeah, I think that the roasters could take on such a level of education. And think about that bond you can make with the consumer as well. If you're teaching them how to make the coffee and then they're having that experience at home, they're going to come into your cafe as well and experience the coffee there and learn more. It feels like it's a full loop system.
And I think really roasters are already doing that. Sorry to interrupt, but roasters have really downplayed the level of knowledge they've given to their cafes. And I think cafes have downplayed the level of knowledge that their staff have. And they've been investing in training programs. Every roaster I've worked for or worked around, both at La Marzocco and in my career, have had really intensive training programs, manuals, videos, like very, very expensive pieces of gear, especially when it wasn't easy to create those pieces of collateral, and really invested in it for free. Like, they didn't charge their customers for that. So the information's there. We just have been kind of hiding it from the consumer and then saying, oh, but you should pay more, but they don't understand the level of knowledge. But again, conversely with wine or the explosion of craft beer, people are willing to know that the staff behind the counter do actually know more than it's their part-time job. It's not their part-time job. They're passionate about it and they should just be shouting about that. But it's not something they need to invest in. It's already there, but they need to pull that curtain down and start sharing it.
I agree. The amount of knowledge within the coffee industry that's untapped that could be utilized for amazing customer service experiences is huge. And I think that we've been nervous about going into that because, you know, if we think about like 10 or 15 years ago in the Australian scene, there was a real pushback on like the data dump that was happening for consumers, right? You'd walk into a cafe and you'd be made to feel stupid if you didn't know about a particular varietal or processing method. And people were just kind of like talking at you about like, here's the altitude, here's the varietal, here's the processing method, the hours, the name of the farmer. And, you know, there was no engagement with the actual person and what they were ready for. But I think that if we can flip that around and bring that to, you know, an added consumer experience and elevate it, I think there's a huge value that can be added that can really sustain cafes.
Totally. And it's about looking at your sales, you know, if your coffee's, as we call them, wet and dry, right? Your wet sales, like your cup sales, are going down, but your bean sales are going up. Chat to the people that are buying both, understand their motivation, and back that with the service that you're providing. If that involves a barista class on the weekend that you can charge a home barista $300 to come in and learn, sick.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's going to make up for that drop in cup sales pretty quickly.
Now, one thing that the report noted was maybe seeing an increase in like later night kind of coffee spots. We've seen this in a lot of Asian countries, Middle Eastern. What do you think will kind of push this drive into this later night coffee?
Look, again, I'm speaking to the agility. I don't think that's going to happen everywhere. Bryden, one of our lovely team members, has just moved to, a very good friend of yours, just moved to Queensland with his family. Lifestyle choice. Can't understand why on this grey, cold Melbourne day. I called him just to double check. I haven't been to Brisbane in a little while, but cafes open at 5 or 6 in the morning and close at 1, 12. Lifestyle driven. Like, yeah, people in Melbourne in the room, eyes wide open, but it's, you know, it's hot. people get up early, they go to the beach, they all finish early in tradies, et cetera, and everyone wants to go home and hang out in their backyards. That's great. Melbourne, we don't really have that privilege. So I think it's probably more larger city-based, CBD-based, but you've got, you have a changing population, changing culture. You know, we are becoming more of a global citizenship as a world, I guess. Like the nations,
pot here.
The nations are blending, you know, and I think like we need to appreciate that not everyone does want to go to the pub and have a pint. And it's really changed in the time I've been at Marzocco hosting barista events, where it used to be how many slabs of beer can we buy? And then the barista kids would drink us dry and we'd have to run to the bottle-o. Now it's a lot of non-alcs. It's a lot of like not drinking and actually really wanting to know about the equipment. Crazy. That's why we're hosting the party. But there is that leaning towards, you know, cultures that don't value alcohol, or that's the way that they connect. People that really do enjoy meeting out their friends out. And I think in the UAE, you know, cafes are pumping at 1 a.m. They don't drink.
And I think it should, as in Australian culture, it shouldn't be like the only reason you should leave your house after 6 p.m. is to get a beer. It's totally. Like, no, it's like people need to connect and, you know, come together over, and it shouldn't always be alcohol, you know.
Totally. And I'm like, when I was at uni in Wellington, there was a cafe called Midnight Espresso and Wild. It was open till midnight, but I'll go there when I was studying because I just didn't want to be sitting in my room. And I think there's an element of that in the CBD. You see all these apartment buildings, they're not built for hosting. Not like you can have a nice dining table. So where do I go with my friends? And maybe I don't want to go to a loud pub where there's drunk people. Maybe I want to go and sit with my friends and have a coffee and have a chat. And yeah, I think, again, speak to your audience. Where are your customers from? What do they want to do? How do they like to engage? You know, but not one size fits all. But I do think there is a real trend towards that.
And I guess this is, you know, this report in particular is focused on the Australian market, right? And trends there. But I guess for different cafe owners all around the world are facing kind of increasing cost pressures, right? Whether it be from raw products or lease or whatever the pressures are. So I guess the message here is about exploring slightly different business kind of angles, maybe not quite a different business model, but just kind of, you know, teasing out where can you expand these sunk costs to kind of gain a little bit more business, whether it be opening early in a really inner city kind of area or commuter zone or late, or kind of offering different products there that are going to make that extension of the third place almost. Where do I go to meet friends to do study is kind of a perfect example. You see in the US all of the time, you know, people sitting on a laptop and doing a lot of, you know, it's the shared workspaces of the US.
Let's do this. Let's talk about it.
They're camping.
Let's talk about the shared workspace, or talking about like cafes being basically like a library or a working space. This is not the way in Australia. Maybe there's been a bit of a change. Maybe there's a few places that are kind of going. What's your feeling about it? And for the listeners, we're basically saying, I don't know about other countries, but my observation is in the US, a cafe is pretty much just someone sitting there for 2 hours, ordering a coffee and tapping away on their laptop and doing work. I don't know how that's a sustainable model to make any money, but in Australia, that doesn't seem to be the way.
Yeah, I don't know. It's interesting because we don't have that diner culture, right? Like they'll endlessly pour you cups of coffee as long as you're sitting down. I think it's fair to expect those people to buy things as they're sitting there, and 1 cup of coffee isn't enough. I almost feel like you could probably like rent a space. Like we're going to co-working spaces. Can you just like rent a table in the cafe if you want to work there? But yeah, I've done this. I've set up, there's a cafe in Sydney, 3 Blue Ducks. You guys have been. Great cafe. And I have actually teed up meetings all day in those spaces and basically had people coming in like every hour or so to meet me. And then every time I'm like, I'll buy this, I'll buy that, I'll have lunch, then I'll have beers. But I'm like plugging in my laptop, having a great time, but it's almost like I've extended my office space.
That's the etiquette though that I like. And I'd love to know from any of our American listeners, like, do you have a self-imposed etiquette? When you're at a cafe of like, if I'm here at this time, I will buy a muffin. I will buy something else, because you just had the exact mindset that I have. And not many other people have this mindset. We work in hospitality. Like I'm constantly like, walking in a cafe and the person I'm with is like storming across the cafe and pulling out a chair to sit down. I'm like,
Moving
no,
tables?
you wait to be seated, ripping tables across, or thinking that they can sit there for 3 hours and order a coffee, whereas I will be like, I've been here for an hour. Okay, now I'll order this thing. Now I'll get that. I'll also monitor how busy the cafe is, and am I taking up space, and should I get out of here because a table who's going to sit down and spend $200 might be waiting at the door.
Yeah. But I think this is different for all these different contexts, right? It's not quite apples to apples in comparison because, lease prices and definitely staff wages are radically different across Australia to other parts of the world. And so the pressure to turn over kind of tables and even the size of venues, like in Australia, I would imagine that our venue size is quite a lot larger. We've got more seats, like seated spaces in general in the city, even in inner city kind of locations. And it's like, well, if you're paying for that square meterage, you need to have higher value turnover per seat.
But even think about like in the US, if someone's sitting there for 2 hours on one coffee, these waiters are working off tips. And they're getting a $1 tip on a coffee for 2 hours.
Yeah.
It's brutal.
Maybe we ask what tactics people put into play to shift people along.
Yeah. Well, they don't, but they set it up. Like, this is where the other side is. They set it up with like free Wi-Fi for people to come. Like, they're set up with chargers and stuff for people to sit and work.
That is changing. You'll see even in, around the world, there'll be like little signs saying, laptop free table or something like that. And it'll be like literally cut out saying no, or they won't have charging points put in. So it's like, well, you've got a limit, or there's no Wi-Fi.
Yeah, just don't have the Wi-Fi, then they're screwed.
But it's kind of interesting, the different expectations.
Exactly.
All right, so La Marzocco, as we mentioned as we began this, is kind of the workhorse machine. It's seen for specialty coffee is on so many bars, and the Linear Classic in particular is the thing that so many baristas are familiar with. It's just tried and true. But also La Marzocco is doing these collaborations with some luxury brands like Porsche and Aimé Leon Dior. Did I say that right? I think I did. How do you kind of balance those two kind of messages of like tried and true, and we're here to make sure specialty is getting out, and then this super premium luxury?
Yeah, it's interesting. I think it's been a challenge for us locally. We have been established in the specialty coffee market for 30 years in Australia, and then having our home brand launch really about 10 years ago, really understanding that B2B way of speaking and acting, and then the B2C. Globally, it's been a growth thing. I think we're passionate about collaborating with other brands who care about quality, innovation, history, and that goes with the commercial when we're dealing with roasters. We're having some of the best roasters in the world in Australia. We're very, very, very lucky. And I almost feel like this is an extension of that. I don't think it's a departure or a change in any way. I think it's just that is the equivalent in the consumer mind. And it just feels very natural. We care about people. We care about the experience that people have when they're dealing with us. And I think, as we've just mentioned, roasters do that in Australia without even thinking about it, because it's so inherently part of what they do. And I think these other luxury brands that we've had the luxury of
there's the marketing mind working in overdrive.
Thesaurus is probably needed. It feels really natural, and I think that's something whenever someone approaches us, and again, it's we're very, very fortunate that people come to us more so than we reach out to them. And I think it's often what naturally fits and isn't going to be that Wayne's World drinking the Coca-Cola with the label facing out moment. It just very much works on both of our channels and feels like, of course, they're working together. Why wouldn't they work together?
Oh, and if you haven't seen these machines, they are baller. Are you kidding me? Look them up right now. There's been like a Rimowa one, a Porsche one. Was there a Specialized collab as well?
Yes, we did do
Specialized
one with
collab.
them as well. Yes.
The Aimé Leon Dior. I don't know. Door.
You're not French. It's
the
okay.
Aimé Leon Dior. Man, that thing is insane. The detail and level of craftsmanship on that. And to your point, where some people outside of the zeitgeist might be like, why the hell is this collab happening? Because these are brands with history that absolutely are about craftsmanship, precision, being well made. I look at that Rimowa, we'll talk about it a bit later, but like, this is a product that is like, looks stunning, but also looks like it's could knock down a brick wall. And I'm like, that's a La Marzocco. It's like studding, but it's also like, I am made to last.
And a lot of those collabs were done with our OFB, so the Officina Fratelli Bambi. So
I've been there.
Yeah,
I was there with Lorenzo. Like, this is where people don't understand, where you think like, oh, there's a partnership between Porsche and La Marzocco, and there's some factory that's just whipping these things up. There is this like old Italian dude wearing a blue worker jacket over in Italy who's got like a mallet, and he's like belting metal into shape to like handcraft these machines individually. I was there watching them, I think, when they were doing the Remol ones, and it was just one by one making these individual machines. Like, it is unbelievable.
Yeah. We will always be handmade in Florence. It was something Piero was very passionate about and something that we hold true as a brand. But Officina Fratelli Bambi, as you mentioned, it's in Accademia, which is in our original factory from the 50s in the hills outside of Florence, and it is as romantic as it sounds. And in the basement there, Rowan's wearing the jacket. We have really a handful of guys that are just, and girls, crafting the most incredible pieces of equipment, and they are hand bending, hand beating these panels to create these machines that are so unreal. Like, that's where we align with these people, and it's not us reaching, it's actually us going back into our history and saying, well, this is how we did it 50 years ago. Let's keep that tradition alive. And it's really, really special. And some of the guys that helped train the guys at Officina Fratelli Bambi and how to remember some of these skills, because we had lost them, they'd worked with the original people at the factory in the 50s. And they were about to leave their craft because they were about to retire, and they can hand that down. It's such a special moment. And so, yeah, it's no departure for either of us from our storytelling. It's just enriching it and inviting more people into hearing and finding out about our brand and what makes it important. And that works for all of those collabs. So again, very, very lucky and grateful.
There was one method where it's literally just like the sheet of metal. I don't know if it was brass or whatever it is, but they use a mallet and they just beat it for countless hours until it is completely smooth. So it's like the full shape of a La Marzocco and all the curves and all the things, and it's completely smooth just from like hours of just like belting away.
Whacking it.
Just whacking it. Nope. Ben, jeez, just an Italian man.
That one.
No, it's staying in.
All right, this podcast going?
Back to the
I said nothing.
Back to the coffee report. One thing that I wanted to yell out: we're talking about in Australia how many cafes there are, and I was reading that the average profit margin on a cafe now is 3.7, which is nearly down a full %. And I started to try to do some maths because I'm a bit of an idiot, and I just wanted to know if I could get the landscape right here. So you're a cafe that, let's say, makes 1.2 million in a year. I'm estimating that by saying you make $25,000 a week. That moves on. You are then making, so 3.7% of that is your profit margin for the year is $44,000.
Yeah, this is an IBIS report. I think hopefully you're paying yourself a wage before that, because if you're not, it is a very frightening number. And I think people don't draw that conclusion when they walk into that cafe every day and think about just the costs, the tax, wages. We pay baristas incredibly well in Australia, and we should, because they are very, very skilled. But everybody in Australia is paid a fair wage, and it's not tips based.
So you just, for the landscape, gone are the days of being just like an investor or owning a cafe and not working in it. It's like, if you want to even survive, you got to be living and breathing in that thing, try to pay yourself a wage. And then maybe the profit margin at the end of the year is just your little like bonus of, I can buy the kids' Christmas presents this year.
It's a passion project. And, you know, when I moved here in 2007, I remember Googling. Google wasn't a thing. Do you know Ask Jeeves was a thing? Do you remember Ask Jeeves?
Oh, I remember Ask Jeeves. I was asking Jeeves everything.
Phone number. I remember calling and being like, you have to answer this question. I'm out at the pub. What is the answer to this? And you can check it up on your phone. And searching just to find specialty coffee, because I'd come from New Zealand and specialty coffee was everywhere. And I think there was like 3 specialty cafes in Melbourne. And I could count on one hand how many La Marzoccos there were when I first took Guido and Lorenzo and Chris around. They were like, take us to a La Marzocco. We had to scour the city for 5. And they were making money hand over fist, you know, like there wasn't the same checks and balances in place in terms of wages and costs were low, demand was high, and there just wasn't competition. And now there's so many incredible cafes and so much good coffee. Like there's just the margins are just being squeezed, and it's a labor of love. And we should be very grateful to the people that are custodians of hospitality in Australia, because our standards are so incredibly high, and you don't have to go back if you don't like that cup of coffee because there's someone next door. So it's, I don't know, it's hats off to them. I love them for it, but it's hard and we should be paying more for a cup of coffee.
Great. Shout out to the coffee industry.
Truly.
Now, the report is great. Can people access this report? Where do they find it?
Yes. So on our website, you can plug in your email address and you can download a copy of that. But yeah, it's a great little read. I think we worked with a really great food writer, Danny Valent, and just really grateful to the other people that are involved in giving us quotes on this. You know, the team at the Sydney Swans, the team at Accor Hotels, Fleur from Market Lane, just Helen from All Press, just some incredible humans that helped contribute to just the commentary that we had. We didn't want it to be what we were saying. We really wanted to speak to the industry. And yeah, we're really proud of just the level of knowledge and passion that's coming out. So please download it, have a read.
Do it. There's lots of great, insightful things in there. We just scratched the surface of...
Is this the first year that the report's been done?
Yeah, so it was our idea along with our PR company just to change the game and change, again, why are we doing posts about a coffee machine on a cafe bench when we could be talking about something that's got a little bit more meaning to it and helps people identify more about the cafe than just that machine that's on the bench. What else is going on behind that, under the surface, I guess. So,
you think it'll be an ongoing report?
Yeah. Maybe? Yeah, potentially. I don't know if
Click those downloads, people.
I don't know if yeah, for sure. I don't know if necessarily it needs to be annual, but biannual would be quite nice.
5-yearly would probably be pretty good.
Yeah.
I think things are changing. They're not changing that rapidly, but yeah, we'd want it to be interesting.
Yeah.
Let's move on to some quick fire kind of questions. I don't know if we've given you the heads up on these, so let's see how you go off the cuff. Have you got a particular moment in mind that you're most proud of at your time at La Marzocco?
Yes, very much so. Out of the box. So I don't know if anyone's seen recently, we've been shouting about doing out of the box again this year. I'm hearing you're in attendance.
He is now.
I am now. I don't even control my own calendar. There's just people sending me left and right.
In Milan, so a very historical moment for us. So Host is every 2 years, there is the biggest hospitality trade show in the world. It is phenomenally large. There's those little travelators that just take you past all of the trade halls and it just continues. There's like 8 trade halls, double storied for pizza ovens. It's a sight to behold. People from all over the world, and the coffee is a part of that. And we've exhibited there for many years. The first time we wanted to, we actually couldn't afford to host a stand with La Marzocco. So we did out of the box, set up in a warehouse in Milan and held like this is who La Marzocco is at our core, showcasing specialty roasters, talking about our latest equipment, just a real kind of fiesta of La Marzocco. And we're bringing that back this year. So we're not featuring at Host and we are hosting our own out of the box in Milan. And the reason I speak to that is we did one of those in Melbourne in 2017. So my proudest moment was bringing that to the Abbotsford Convent, a not existing convent now, a historical one, but down by the river in Melbourne, just a beautiful space. And we held panel talks, a roasters village, a photography exhibition. We had a motorbike with a sidecar with a mini strap to it. We were hand building a machine from scratch with some of the guys brought out from the factory.
So cool.
Yeah, and I hosted a 200-person sit-down dinner, and I had a few friends come to the event, and they were like, so now you've done this, you could probably just organise my wedding, right? So I'm also getting into wedding planning. But yeah, it's super, super difficult organisation. And at that time, we were a really small team, and it was myself and a woman called Alex Jennings who just left La Marzocco, but she had been there for 9 years. And it was really just the two of us with a bit of support. And we got to the end of the night and I think we both sat in a gutter and I think just cried and hugged each other because as the bus drove off.
Good show.
But yeah, very, very proud moment, and something that, again, hoping to see that brought back to life in Milan this year it's super special. And anyone that could possibly get there, October 18th, Milan in the Tortona district, make your way there because it will be a sight to behold.
Now, one trend in coffee you wish would disappear forever?
Just judging people for their drink. I've already said it, but stop it.
Yeah.
You don't have to drink it. Don't worry about it.
The best coffee in the world is whatever coffee you love.
Right? Like, just stop.
It seems to be very old school, and it's not as much, but there's still like, certain parts of the world where people want to crucify if you drink. The only way to drink coffee is pure and black, and that's the representation of what it is. And it's like, come on, guys, chill out.
Yeah, just relax. Like, again, hospitality, when you're welcoming people in, well, it's exactly that. Welcome them. Make them feel at home.
I love
It's the essence of who we are in our industry.
All right, here's another one for you. What's the weirdest marketing idea you've ever had?
Myself?
You're the weirdest marketing idea?
No. So weirdest marketing idea I've ever heard. And I actually, I found something that I actually thought was really fascinating. Can I share that?
Yeah, please.
Because it blew my mind. In the late 70s, Nestle started making Kit Kats with coffee-infused flavor in it. Did you know this?
No.
And Japan primarily before that was a tea-drinking nation. Because to me, Japan's always been this real influential coffee nation. So they started putting Nescafe, putting coffee into Kit Kats, getting kids get a taste for it. And it's created this whole generation. And like now it's 50 years deep. And Japan is like a leading coffee nation.
No, I have heard this because they were tea drinkers and Nestle were like, we don't have a coffee market there. So they started infiltrating it into sweets to build the flavor profile. And then when it worked, they were like, great, now we'll start selling
20 years later, they got older.
Now it's one of the biggest.
Evil genius.
It's remarkable. And, the vending machines really helped. Obviously, you can buy coffee anywhere now, but made it accessible, made it something that people just was inherently a flavor profile they loved. Fascinating. And going there now and seeing all those siphon lounges still operating and pouring siphons and very much in that 70s vibe, it blew my mind. And I was like very impressed. That is the long game, the 100% long game.
And the final one on the quick roll. If you had unlimited budget for one outrageous coffee marketing stunt, what would it be?
So much going on in the world now. It's so hard to think, I was going to do a coffee stunt. But if I was to collaborate with someone that I personally just think is incredible, it'd probably be Shepard Fairey, the Obey Giant artist, making a very large mural. He has them all over the world, super famous, but he's often political. And I think it's really great. But I would love to see a piece done by him that gets the coverage that his work gets, either in downtown Melbourne, downtown LA, wherever it was going to get the biggest impact, Berlin, speaking to the coffee supply chain and just shining a light on where we are really missing a trick in supporting people that are doing the hard yards.
Well, they actually listen to the podcast, so you've heard it. You've got the message out. Let's get that mural going.
That's fantastic. Great. I didn't know that.
Well, it's getting... Look, are you feeling... You look a little flushed.
Yeah.
Your face is starting to become the same color as your beard.
I feel like I just need a really tasty coffee right now.
It feels like you're getting hotter. I think it's time for an extra hot take with two sugars. All right. Well, we love to throw it to the guests first and give them the opportunity to kind of, get something off their chest and really just launch into the coffee industry. Well, not the coffee industry, but just have an opinion about something in the coffee industry.
So my hot take is stop traveling the world and telling everyone how terrible their coffee is, coming home and saying it's so much better in Australia, it's so much better here, and then being annoyed that you have to pay for that quality. Just stop.
Straight up.
Not only do I agree, but that is pretty much my hot take very much leans on that as well. Mine was, why are Australians up in arm about a coffee costing $7? We are meant to be the leader in specialty coffee, yet everywhere around the world is doing a better job of it. You've got Sweden, you've got Denmark, you've got the US, you've got the UK. All of them are charging more acceptable numbers for specialty coffee. Australia, we're meant to be the kings of specialty coffee, yet we're going to murder someone over the idea of a coffee costing $7. It's ridiculous.
There's just no excuse. They need to up those prices and stop complaining about it.
I want to see you lifting to my level of enthusiasm.
I'm
Ben.
really passionate about
Here's
this.
me slapping a table and Ben's like, I really agree.
Yes.
It's not good enough. He's so calm and collected.
Measured.
So calm and collected. All right, Ben. Well, let's get you worked up. What is your hot take?
My hot take is that coffee roasters and buyers are killing themselves trying to predict the market trends, right? It's ridiculous. It's like the C market market. We're talking here the raw coffee price market. It's notably one of the most volatile markets in the world on commodities, and it has been going all over the place. It's been notably very high, and obviously that puts a lot of pressure. Everyone's like focusing in on it, trying to make sure like where is it going to go. It's putting a lot of cost pressure on, and people are holding off like, I'm just going to wait and see if it goes down, and then I'll maybe lock in my next green coffee supply. And meanwhile, their stocks are getting lower and lower and lower, and they still haven't made a decision. And I think the cost, the labor cost and the mental cost in continuing to come back to this question and not making a decision and locking in coffee contracts is it's just insane. You need to kind of go, you can't predict it. If you could predict it, you should be in the stock market and making a whole heap more money.
Do you think they've got a bit of a gambling addiction or something? Like, do you reckon they're just like obsessed with like riding this wave? So you're saying they're like, oh, the coffee could drop by $1 a kilo next week. I'm going to hold out.
I don't know that they're necessarily thinking of it as a win. It's more of I don't want too much loss, right? There's a lot of pressure there, but
that's an anti-gambling mindset if I've ever heard one. Let me tell you, on this side of the table.
Said, okay, fine. I said the same thing different way.
It does go back to people paying more for that cup, so they're not so sensitive. They're not so scared, and I think that's just, you've got to support the level of passion and the care that people are putting into sourcing the best that they can and wanting to do that, but they don't want to like lose out. And it's our job as consumers to back the level of quality, you know, like looking at the price of a pint or a glass of wine when I moved here in 2007 versus how much that's gone up. You know, a pint used to be $8.
Yeah.
Now, if it's under 20, good luck.
Yeah. For
Coffee,
sure.
$4 to $5.50. Sorry. Like, I'm really sorry.
So
that is woeful and it's embarrassing. And that is going to cause that, you know, decision paralysis. And I understand it because, we just spoke to the percentage margin and the profit that you make. It's so minimal. Can we not just support them in providing us that industry globally leading product? Pay that little bit more. It's just going to make such a difference.
Great. And I think we had someone, was it Andrew Lowe the other week, who was saying it's like, we'll go to an airport and spend $6 on a bottle of water and not blink an eye. And it's just literally some of those companies, it's just tap water put into a bottle and just shipped out. It's insane. Now, you know, we've gone from hot takes, spicy moments to everyone, I want you to take a deep breath in. Now we're in a little bit of positivity in the coffee industry. Jets, I want to give you the opportunity right now. We want to shout out more people in the industry and just give them a little bit of a spotlight and a little bit. Is there anyone in the coffee industry, near and far, whatever, it could be someone you work with, there's someone that you just want to give a shout out who you think's absolutely killing it?
Yeah, I think you met her when you went to Italy, but she works with me, Silvia Bartoloni.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Silvia has been the custodian of hosting people through the factory, through academia. She was very, very close to Piero. She was his right-hand person right through until his passing. And she's an incredible mother, incredible colleague, and just a wealth of knowledge when it comes to La Marzocco. And she's a Florentine born and bred. She is now looking after the archives at academia, and she just knows so much and is so passionate and caring about people's experiences. And I'm just incredibly proud to call her a friend, a colleague, and probably a sister at this point. So yeah, I don't think the people behind the scenes are recognized enough, and she's an incredible human. So Silvia, I love you.
Couldn't agree more. Well,
I love that.
I
love that.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
And can I say, we were lucky enough to go over to academia, and the hospitality and care and love was amazing. There's this real mentality amongst La Marzocco of like, you're part of the family, when you definitely felt like that when we were over there. Thank you again live on the pod for that experience as well.
Oh, no, it's our pleasure. Anytime. Everyone is welcome. Academia is open every day. Book yourself a tour and go and experience it.
It's unbelievable. Like, you get to see the best machines, the handcrafted ones that are all custom. There's full like museum experiences that you're going through. And not only that, there's not only the history of La Marzocco, but while we were there was like a pop-up about the history of like sourcing coffee, and there's different experiential kind of pop-ups that
migrant exhibition,
a migrant exhibition that was happening. So that was amazing. And now that I've finally buttered you up, we just wanted to ask the question here. Depending on who's in the grand final, can Sonam and I get tickets to the grand final, the AFL grand final this year?
Sonam and you? What am I? Huh? Huh? Just the third wheel.
This is
here.
an ongoing thing that we have that we're trying. Look, I don't want to like stretch it with a third. We're getting in trouble here.
I know people that know people. I'll chat to my AFL cats.
Hell yeah. All right. If you want to see the report, head to Marzocco to find that. It's a great read. Jets, thank you so much for giving us the time, for putting so much thought and effort into all of this. We really appreciate it. That's my shout out in the coffee industry. It's you.
Oh, thanks,
You're a
babes.
superstar. If you want to ask us any questions or you have anything about the future of coffee yourself, make sure to reach out to us at hello@itsjustcoffeepod.com. You can hit us on the socials. We just started fresh on our social account. I'm just going to give us a little big up. We started from 0. We're already at 2,000 followers in like, what, a month or something like that?
Kudos.
Good on us for doing that.
And thank you.
Yeah, thank us.
Okay, thank us.
No, thank you. We've in the coffee break coming up, we've got some users. What am I? Some of you amazing listeners, I just call them users. Some of you users. Some of our amazing listeners have written in questions that we're going to be asking. We definitely want to make this more of a two-way conversation moving forward. So there'll be more of that. If you're listening on Spotify, no, I said Shopify, Spotify, iTunes, anywhere where you get the podcast, just take the time to hit that little subscribe button because it really helps us and we want to make this the best coffee podcast in the world for you guys. We love you very much. And I didn't know if I should bring this up, but Ben actually sent me a text before the show and he had a very special message that he wanted to share. Ben, what was that you wanted to say?
I'm wearing my winter recording thermals just for you.
That's what he had to say. See you later, guys.